Right, so good afternoon to you. You're still watching Midday Live, coming to you from our studios here at Addis Ababa. My name is Naneku Asari, and this afternoon we heard earlier that President John Dramani Mahama, in a directive dated December 9, 2013, to all ministers of state and signed by Dr. Raymond Atuguba, the Executive Secretary to the President, that with immediate effect, MDA should purchase or renew their insurance cover required in the course of government business solely with insurance companies wholly or partially owned by the state. So this afternoon we're talking insurance. The issue of monopoly has come to play, and the whole controversy is stirring up, looking at state-owned insurance companies with the private ones. And according to the directive, any MDA which had cause to do otherwise must first of all obtain the required permission. This afternoon we want to look at the implications of this directive given by President John Mahama. And joining us on the line to look more into the issue is Emmanuel Mensah, who is a financial and economic journalist. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Mensah, and thanks for joining us on Midday Live.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, and a Merry Christmas in advance to you and all your listeners.
Many happy returns to you too. Well, let's look at this directive given by the President. Is there any need for the stir of controversy looking at the directive?
Yeah, I would like to say that this is a long overdue policy directive. We needed it like 20 years ago. Now, coming back to the implications, the first implication is whether the Minister of Finance had made provisions through the budgetary allocations for 2014 for such a policy to be implemented.
Right.
You know, this goes with financial implications for the economy.
But have you also considered the role the private sector plays when it comes to issues of insurance? When you look at the history or dates of state-owned companies, I can say, not on record, but I can say that we have 2 state-owned insurance companies, and the rest, about 49 of private insurance companies in the country. Looking at the private companies' contribution to governments, let's say the private institutions are the engine of growth for the country. Have we also considered that?
Well, let's look at it from 2 dimensions. The first is that any injection of capital into the economy is good. More or less, it's just like the kind of injection the Obama government took when it faced the kind of financial crisis it had, way back. So any decision that government companies which are state-owned, financed by the state. And let's not forget, government is the biggest spender in this economy. So any injection from government into the private sector, it's a boost to the economy. It's a job creation avenue for many young and unemployed, and also an opportunity for companies to increase their operations and their capital. So that is okay. What are we looking at? We need to consider, in this economy, we need to consider fair play. What I thought your question leads to is whether this policy would favor the state-owned insurance companies or not. No, that shouldn't be the case, because the National Insurance Commission has had a, let me call it, an elaborate policy to regulate the insurance industry. And so if your policies are good and your operations are up to the demand of the client, I don't think it should be tilted in favor of whether it's state-owned or not. It means that each insurance company has to take opportunity by increasing its turnaround strategy to make sure that they take advantage of the new directive.
Right, but looking at signals we are also picking from these operators in the private insurance institutions, they are really not happy with the directive. And they've already asked the president to revert or go against this new directive that he's brought up. What is the way forward now, looking at all the updates that are coming up?
I think that 2 things we also need to look at in this economic or financial or business environment that we operate here in Ghana. I think that the government has, the president has thrown out a policy directive. Policy directives are not execution or implementation directives.
Right.
I think that the insurance operators and the players need to come out with a cohesive and convincing program that includes the National Insurance Commission. That is the regulator of the insurance industry. I don't think that the policy that state-owned companies, etc., with their vehicles and other things should insure, it's a bad policy. However, I don't think the president also is dictating that, look, this is the way it should be. Even if the presidency has given an indication that moves towards a certain direction that is not in favor of